Hey guys, and welcome to this video. So today I'm going to be testing out some brand new releases by L'Oreal, and they are the Blend Artist Infallible sponges. So there's 3 different sponges in the range, and I'm going to be testing all 3 of them out. As you can probably tell, I have no face makeup on, and that's because I'm going to be using these sponges to apply my makeup and kind of giving you guys my first impression. So this purple one is supposed to be used for foundation. It's very lightweight and it doesn't feel dense at all. It feels like it's going to be really bouncy when it's wet. And then we have this blue sponge, which is the concealer blender, and it's much smaller than the foundation one, but this is supposed to be used for blending out concealer. And then we've got this like lime green / yellow one, which is supposed to be used for blending out your contour. So to get the most accurate test of these, I decided to use products that I know I love. So I'm going to be using a foundation, concealer, and contouring products that I know that I love so that I can test out just the way that the sponge performs, because I already know how the products perform. So let's go ahead and get started with the foundation blender. So the claims for the foundation blender are that it's designed to deliver an ergonomic control, provide easy and even application, and be used all over the face. And the directions say to apply a small amount of foundation onto the blender and then bounce all over the face until desired coverage is achieved. Doesn't say to use it damp, but I use all of my sponges damp, so I am gonna dampen this before applying my foundation. Okay, so I just got my hair out of my face in this really stylish updo and dampened the sponge, and it got quite a bit larger, and it already feels really bouncy, which is a good sign. So I'm gonna be applying the Maybelline Matte and Poreless because I already know I love this foundation, and so if it doesn't perform well, then we know it's the sponge's fault. Okay, so I applied the foundation to the back of my hand, and I'm just gonna dip the bottom of the sponge in and stipple it onto my skin. Okay, so immediately I noticed that a little bit went a long way, so I don't feel like it's soaking up a lot of product. I feel like it's about the same as my Real Techniques Miracle Sponge or the Beauty Blender. It feels really, really bouncy, which is nice, and is doing a really good job of blending it into my skin. The only thing I'm not loving right now is the shape. I'm used to kind of holding the end of the Beauty Blender or the end of my Real Techniques sponge, and when I do that, it doesn't give me enough control with this sponge. I kind of have to hold it closer to where I'm applying it. That's not necessarily a problem with the product, it's just me getting used to the shape. I really like the way that this has blended the foundation into my skin so far. Only thing I will say that I've noticed is that by the time I got to my forehead, there was a lot of product buildup on here, and it didn't feel like it was stippling it in as well as it did when I did the first section of my face, but that's kind of to be expected with most beauty sponges. Alright, so moving on to the concealer blender. The claims for this one is that it was designed to deliver ergonomic control, provide an easy and even application, and conceal hard to reach areas. The directions are to apply a small amount of concealer onto the blender, blend and bounce in circular motions around eye, nose, and mouth. So I'm gonna go ahead and dampen this one and then apply my concealer. Okay, so again, this one got quite a bit larger, and I really like this side. Just looking at the shape of the sponge, I really like this flat side because that's one of my favorite features of the Real Techniques sponge, because it does help get those like hard to reach areas. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply my tried and true Maybelline Fit Me concealer and blend it out using this sponge. Okay, so I immediately noticed that this one does not feel nearly as bouncy as the foundation one. It's kind of difficult to work with, and it feels really bulky, even though it does have this really fine tip. And like, it's not really blending out my concealer on my chin. I feel like I'm having to like slam this into my face. Yeah, this is like not blending it out at all. I pressed several times right there and it's still the exact same lines that I drew. So I'm not liking this. I'm actually going to go back to the foundation sponge and see how this side works for blending out the concealer. Okay, so that's the concealer done. Not a huge fan of this one, and I think this one did a better job of blending it out, but it was a little bit bulky trying to get underneath my eyes with this large of a sponge. Okay, so moving on to the contour blender, the claims for this one are that, again, it delivers an ergonomic control, provides even easy application, and creates shade and light contours on the face. Okay, so the directions are to apply a small amount of contour or highlight onto a blender and draw lines around the cheekbones, jawline, and nose. Blend out contour lines in circular motions. It says, pro tip, draw contour and highlight lines using the tips of the blender and then the flat side to blend and diffuse. Okay, so I'm gonna go dampen this one. Okay, so this one did get larger, but I can immediately tell it's the densest of the three. If I push it down, it takes it a second to get its shape back. More like a Tempur-Pedic pillow than a bouncy sponge. So I don't typically use a sponge for contouring, but we are today. I'm gonna be using my Sonia Kashuk Undetectable Cream Bronzer in Rich Bronze. So like it said, I'm gonna dip the pointy side right here into the contour product and then draw lines. Okay, so now I'm gonna use the rounded side to blend it out. Getting kind of blotchy and it's not really blending. All right, I'm gonna try and use the flat side maybe. Kind of just making it disappear. All right, let's go back to the foundation sponge again. This is blending much better. Okay, so we've tried all three sponges and I'm gonna give you guys my final thoughts on all three of them. So starting with the foundation sponge, I was actually really impressed by this sponge. It's very bouncy, it's not at all dense. It did soak up a little bit of product, but nothing crazy. I expect that from a sponge. I really like how it left my skin looking like skin, but it still gave me the coverage that I wanted. This also did a really good job of blending out my concealer. The only downside was that this did feel a little bit bulky trying to get up underneath my eyes. I would compare this quality to the quality of the Real Techniques Miracle Sponge. This one is $7.99, that one is $6.99, so not a huge price difference there. So I'm a huge fan of this. I think it performed really, really well, and I'm excited that there's another kind of contender out there to compete with the Beauty Blender. Now on to the concealer blender. I don't think this is gonna be a huge surprise, but I was not impressed by this. I don't think it did a good job of blending out my concealer. It feels a little bit dense and hard to work with. It wasn't bouncy and soft the way that the foundation blender was, and I almost want my concealer blenders to be even softer because it is such a delicate area. In my haul video, I did talk about the Real Techniques mini eraser sponges and that I didn't like them for their purpose to erase makeup mistakes. Like I said I did test those out as concealer sponges, and if you're looking for a small concealer sponge, I would say go with the Real Techniques mini erasers. They're $5.99 and way better than this one. And then last but definitely least, this is the one I was least impressed by. I think partially because I don't use a sponge for contouring and highlighting. It's very dense and kind of foamy, and it didn't do a good job at all blending out my contour. And I feel like all of the product is in this sponge. I do feel like this one soaked up a good bit of product because I don't really have a strong contour going on right now. But I think it's a weird concept that you need to have a different sponge for different makeup purposes. I think if you have one great sponge, you should be able to use it for everything, kind of like what I did with the foundation sponge throughout this video. So overall, I'm really excited that the drugstore is coming out with more of these beauty sponges. I love using beauty sponges to blend out makeup. I think these two are a definite pass, and then this one is worth checking out for sure. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you have not already so you get notified for new videos, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.